Here in the UK, we don't tend to make action films anymore. We have the best stunt teams in the world because Hollywood makes all the big blockbusters here. But the British film industry is scared maybe of making action films, and yet you made a martial arts comedy with female leads and brown people. How did you do this?
I mean, I think it took now what is it? It took 10 years to make it. So, initially the first draft, nobody really wanted anything to do with it. I say this often, but I felt like I was having to cosplay as a different kind of filmmaker. Because being into action wasn't exactly considered, it's not high art. It's not seen as high art. So asking the BFI for money to make an action film was like, I'm asking them to make a porno or something. I just remember feeling a little bit like, I've got to start with my Truffaut references and then work in Jackie Chan. So I didn't really know. And, there was, there wasn't a lot of love for it initially. I feel very lucky. It's when my TV show, We Are Lady Parts, which you can watch now on Channel 4. Thank you. When that was successful, that, Tim Bevan, our working title, was like, do you have a film? And I was like, I have this film. And he read it, and he was, it was the first time, he said, like, let's make it more weird. Whereas, like, all the notes I'd got when I was trying to develop it, with the different production companies was just like, can we soften it? Can we take the action out? They were trying to, like, cut the edges off a bit. Whereas, like, Tim was like, let's just lean in. So, I think it was really off the back of the TV show doing well that the film kind of was considered again.
Did you ever have, like, pushback, like, this would be really great if it was two white brothers called Dean and Phil?
Yeah. I mean, this was like back 10 years ago, where it was like, we think we should have a white family. And I was like, no, I don't know. And so I said no. But then there was another thing, like maybe, it should be like a forced marriage. Like where's the misery in this Brown story? Why is it common? So I remember being like, no, I don't think so. Yeah, or maybe just, if we love it, but just lose the action. So that was something. I was like, no. So it took, as long as it's taken, but I feel very lucky because I found a lot of the crew that I like to work with. I found, my sensibility. It took 10 years and I was banging my head against the wall, but actually I feel very lucky that it took 10 years because I got to figure out how to put a film together.
I mean, you mentioned all your influences growing up. Rhea in her bedroom, she's got Dragon, the Bruce Lee story, and The Man with the Iron Fist, and Crouching Tiger.
Yeah.
What were the martial arts or action films you grew up watching?
The ones that kind of hooked me into action was the Jackie Chan films when he went to the US, so like the Brett Ratner movies and the Rush Hours. So that was my kind of gateway. And then The Matrix was my gateway into like Hong Kong action. Just watching the making of The Matrix is like, I think I've watched that more than the film. Because you see, the Wachowskis loving, all these Jet Li movies. So, that led me down into like Wire Fu, Kung Fu, Hong Kong Kung Fu. So I think those were my kind of touchstones, and then that just opened up a door to me that just made me love action.
Yeah, and they really embrace the stunt community in Hong Kong with like Yung Wu Ping, and here in your film you also celebrate the British stunt community by putting Unicef Hutheart front and center. Now, does everyone here know about Eunice? So
living legend.
I'm probably a bit older than Nida, but for me, growing up in the 90s, Eunice was a legend because she won Gladiators in the 90s.
She was Blade in Gladiators.
Yeah, then she became a gladiator, and then she was doubling Famke Janssen in GoldenEye, and then she became Angelina's stunt double for like a decade. And these days, it's like one of the leading stunt coordinators.
Yeah.
So how did you discover the legend that is Eunice, and how did you get her involved in the film?
Yeah, I mean, from Gladiators, but then also just kind of just being a fan of action, knowing her work, and just, if you watch her behind the scenes, you're watching Eunice, she's got this amazing Scouse accent as well, that coming in at the end, it's like, so good. And just watching her kind of coaching on like the actors on Star Wars, you're like, she's just like this really inspiring, badass woman. I'd sometimes just watch her videos just to kind of get G'd up myself because she's so cool. We did try and reach out to her to kind of try and get her involved, but she was busy on a Star Wars, so she couldn't do it. I think it was Flash or something she was on.
And you told me that she didn't even get to meet Priya till after Polite Society had come out.
Shout out Priya Kansara.
Yeah, Priya Kansara, star, is also in the audience. Actually, let's just embarrass Priya while we got. Yes, embarrass Priya. Because I read in an interview that you were comparing her to Tom Cruise.
Oh, yeah.
She does all her own stunts. So is Priya Kansara the next UK action star? Is she the next Jason Statham?
I mean, I think so. I think she's, she's the Tom Cruise of the UK film industry. I remember we had like 5 minutes to shoot. It was like when we were doing the Rahila fight, the fight at the wedding, and that backflip off the wall. It was like, Priya was like 5 minutes left. And then she goes, teamwork makes the dream work. Strap me in. And then she straps herself in, does a backflip off the wall, and she's like, I think she called cut. It was like very Tom Cruise. I was like, okay. But, I was just like, we have an action star in our hands. And a great actor all round, but she definitely is.
You're not making it easy for her either. These are long flowing saris, wires, everything could get caught up. I mean, yeah.
You did have some bruises, and I apologize. A few. I mean, she's just so incredible. She worked so hard. We had an incredible stunt team and, time and rehearsal to really make the actors comfortable. And again, I was really influenced by Hong Kong Kung Fu. And, watching The Matrix for me, I was like, why is this so good? It's because the actors trained, and so much of the action was the actors doing it and not relying so much on stunties. So, a lot of what the actors did is like, train, and then our kind of stunt team would sort of work the fights to suit their abilities, and then we would and then obviously we use the stunt doubles for those big, spectacular moves because they're really important, but we wanted the actors to do as much of it as possible because that was sort of true to the spirit of the kind of Hong Kong Kung Fu that inspired me.
Well, some of them have clearly taken it to heart because Ritu has gone off and done Paris Has Fallen. So she's running and gunning all over the place these days. Yeah. That's incredible. So how long did it take to shoot? Because it looks like there's certain complexities that would have taken longer, but at the same time, I feel like you're running and gunning a bit.
How? It was a real mix of run and gun, which is the good thing of like having started off in television, because we had a decent budget, but it's like the film is really ambitious. So there were, we had to gonzo it sometimes, but other times, we knew for the big fight sequences, you can't really rush stunts. Yeah. So we wanted to kind of carve out proper time. And, a lot of it was the crew I worked on lady parts, so we had a shorthand, there was an understanding of tone, and again, just the rehearsals made it a lot easier. How long did I think a lot of the crew are in here.
I know, a lot of the cast and crew are here.
Shout everyone who's worked on the film, a lot of the crew are here. Everyone. I think it was 8 weeks. Do we have 8 weeks? Do you know? 8 weeks. 8 weeks.
8 weeks.
Which is pretty decent for a first feature, but it's a nuts film, so we needed it.
So it came out a couple of years ago now.
Yeah.
What's next? Is it another series of We Are Lady Parts? Have you got another action film in the works? Is it going to be action?
My baby just kind of went, a very interesting. Yeah. So I have a baby, so that's kind of I'm sort of.
What?
I know, right? Like what the hell? But I definitely want to do another action movie, so like a big spy action film is what I'd like to do. And in TV, I'm sort of developing a kind of sci-fi horror thing. So, but all with comedy because obs. Yeah.
All right, well, I'm sure we've got lots of audience questions, but for that, I've got a quick fire action questions here for you.
Okay.
What is your favorite action film? Not the best action film, your favorite action film.
And that's like a super basic bitch answer, but I would say The Matrix only in what it did to open sort of Hong Kong Kung Fu for me because, Wu Ping did the fights and that just opened me to his fight choreography. So I'll say The Matrix.
I'll accept it.
Thank you.
In your mind, what is the best action stunt ever?
Can I go for a sequence?
You may.
Best action sequence for me, and I mean, it's not like the most, okay, whatever, it's the best one. The final sequence of Yes, Madam with Cynthia Rothrock and Michelle Yeoh on the mezzanine where they team up and like Cynthia Rothrock does like a split up a wall and then Michelle Yeoh does that thing where she jumps onto the mezzanine. Yeah. Okay, I'm not going to just describe
through the glass.
Yeah. You should check. So yeah, Yes, Madam.
It is screening at BFI Southbank as part of the auction. So get your tickets,
It's so fun. I love that sequence.
So you got Eunice in here. Is there another action legend that you would like to work with?
I don't know, because you don't want to work with your legends, I think.
Mid-tier legend. That you wouldn't put fully on a pedestal. They can stand near the pedestal.
No, okay. I would love, and this is a full legend, is Jackie Chan. Because I think Jackie Chan, does that perfect mix of comedy. I think seeing him do comedy and fights just opened me to action comedy. and the way he uses his environments and the timing. You know, just there's so much rhythm in his action and his fight sequences. So I'd say Jackie Chan but just kind of for his whole filmmaking legendaryness. And I've just had a baby. I'm really sorry. I'm struggling with words.
If, for some members of the audience, this is their introduction to South Asian action films, is there a South Asian action film that you would recommend them to, you know, get started on? This is like their taster. What's the next course?
Oh my God. I don't know. For me, South Asian cinema, it was really the Bollywood cinema that sort of inspired me. So you see like Dev Das, I kind of reference it in the dance that Rhea does. I know some people got the reference. Like that for me, it's not an action movie, but it's Bollywood cinema, which I think has a kind of musicality and a rhythm to it, which is why I love action, why I love Bollywood is a kind of, I don't know, there's a majesty, there's a spectacle to it. But then I'd probably just throw out, if you want to watch something really trashy and fun, like Doom with Hrithik Roshan, why not?
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, like Dev Das, again, it's not action, but it's just the most incredible camera work. And so it's really cool I got to like shout it out in my film.
And finally, done Polite Society, Hollywood comes a-calling. They want you to kind of take over a big action franchise, put in that Manzoor Madness. What would you like to be given the reins to?
I don't know. I feel very fortunate because I've been able to do my own original stuff, and I just really love doing original. So whenever things have come my way, it's been really hard to sort of, I don't know, because it's never getting to like see the character. I've not yet had anything that's come my way that I've really kind of chimed with, nor is there anything that I'm like, oh, I'd love to do a insert thing. I think I just like to keep doing originals and sort of mixing my references within them rather than sort of jumping onto a project that's kind of needs you to just sort of not paint by numbers but kind of toe the line in a way. With, you know, with those huge budgets, just becomes, I think, less creative control unless you're a massive, you know, whatever.
Yeah, that was a trick question and you passed. Well done.
I've got a couple. Like, don't become super fixated on like the perfect environment for writing. I know sometimes like I need this, I need to be in this room, I need to be in a cafe. Just kind of throw that out there. Be like, write anywhere, write on your iPhone, just write, you know. And the cliche, writing is rewriting, but it is. I redrafted this every year for 10 years. I feel like I co-wrote it with my like 21-year-old self. So I would say, you know, just keep working your craft. Download, if you love a film, the best thing, you know, that I found doing all the films I loved, I'd like to try and read their screenplays. So read those screenplays, get inspired, and then just like keep being inspired, keep writing, keep rewriting. I grew up loving action cinema and Bollywood cinema, and I feel like they kind of speak to each other in like that spectacle. But I think I never really saw action action used to represent intense emotion in the same way of like, you know, the way, you know, currently we've got horrors, you know, doing social commentary, but I feel like with a lot of action, it'd be like fight, 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 and then it'd be sort of a mediocre storyline, and then you just skip to the good fights. So for me, I was just really excited to show the intensity of like what it is to be a teenage girl, and you know, it's violent because, you know, emotions are big, and I just felt like the action genre is is a perfect genre to tell the story of a teenage girl. So yeah, and you know, I grew up like you, just in, you know, absorbing Bollywood cinema. So I just feel like it needs to be a wild third act. I don't know. I don't know if I could do anything. It's just sort of seeped in. So I don't know how much of it is just the subconscious being like, okay, I guess now all the aunties need to fight. I don't know.
I think it works. I think it's perfect.
Thank you. Totally, like I needed there to be like a torture waxing scene, which I really fought for. Some of the execs weren't so sold on it. I'm like, listen. And, you know, they were like, what's the tone of this? I'm like, this tone is excellent. Like, it is hard. Sometimes it's hard to explain, you know, that torture waxing scene, people thought it was going to be like that Steve Carell scene in the 40-Year-Old Virgin.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, it's going to be good. They're like, but it's a bit cheesy. I'm like, bad and good and bad and, you know, you're just like, oh, it's hard. So I knew I wanted that. But I also like, there's like actually little lines of dialogue which make me feel happy, like when, you know, Rahila's like, you know, never shave, your hair will grow back twice as thick. That's like, that's like my aunt. And like when the dad is like, you know, don't invest too much emotional capital, that's my dad. Yeah, so it's like those little moments, and like, you know, when that whole monitor was minusing house points and was just like on a power trip at school. Yeah, so I guess it just, you know, when you're writing, you're just writing through the things you love and the things that you know, and, you know, it's like using this big genre of action, of comedy, to kind of just put in this very specific sort of experience. And it's those moments that I really love. It's this, like, kind of the small lines of dialogue which like speak to, you know, my experience that I think has been the most joyful to watch back. Yeah. I can't answer that question without like a strong drink in my hand. But you know, for me, it was just super exciting to show women who like just expressing anger. Because then growing up, like, anger was not an emotion that I felt comfortable expressing. You know, you had to kind of, you know, be a sort of good girl, and sort of, it's sort of the South Asian thing, going to the girls' school, all these things are just like, you know, you sort of feel like you're in a pressure cooker. So it's just, I got to speak to the experience of like feeling all these big feelings as a teenager, but not really feeling I could or was allowed to express them. So, you know, it's extremely cathartic to get to express it on cinema, you know. It's like it's very fun, and like the sister fight scene is probably the most cathartic thing ever. I have a sister who's
that was
1 year older than me, and I wanted to, you know, that, yeah, that's truthful. And we both watched that scene and we were holding each other and crying because we were like, oh my God, yeah, you know, because that's what the person you love, you know, they can really hit you in that special way, which is why that fight's the most violent fight. But what makes me angry right now, you know, all the things, the world, politics, we don't,
So,
Oh, interesting. Do I give this credit to the person who deserves the credit, or do I take the credit? Because they're in the room, I'll give it. You know, in the script there was one heading randomly. The Eid soiree was the only one that existed. And then I think one of the things we were struggling in the edit was like finding that tone, setting up that tone. And so I did a lot of test screenings, and a lot of it was like getting audiences involved in the tone. And it was something, and I always knew like I wanted the film to feel like a tale, like Ria's telling the legend of Ria Khan. I mean, actually that'd be a good title. Anyway, and so yeah, you know, working with Robbie, my editor, who's over there, also a great editor, and I think that was something that I think that was your idea. I'll give you the credit, hey. You know, and just, it was a lot of just for like setting the tone, which is why we thought like the titles, the kind of it's just obnoxious. And isn't anything that kind of lent into that teenage, what would Ria do is kind of our guiding light. It's like, would she have massive, obnoxious titles on her fight? Yes, she would. So that really helped, I think, set the tone. And also the music, a lot of it, you know, we recut the first 10 minutes of this film like a bazillion times to try and get that tone. And actually having those titles, they're really fun, actually coming out. We have so many like title names and different chapters and stuff, but it was definitely something that came in the edit.
How long did it take to settle on the name Polite Society, by the way?
Oh
my God.
That was early doors, but I remember it being like, people thought it was like, is it a bit Jane Austen-y? But you know, I was trying to be like really smart, and you know how like, but it's like that NRA thing of like an armed society is a polite society, and it's like the armed kind of rules and expectations are the weapons, and something smart like that. I know.
I'm very simple, but yeah.
Something smart, but that was the thinking.
I liked it.
Thank you. A few of the cast have been like, polite society too, Singapore sling, you know.
Politer society?
Oh. This time it's not. You know, it's a fun idea. I feel like if I have like a really cool idea, and actually to be fair, a couple of the cast, the actors who play Clara and Alba, Ella and Serafina have been pitching me full story arcs of Polite Society 2, so maybe it will happen. Maybe it will.
Well,
thank you.
Nida, thank you so much for
Thanks,
doing this
Ty.
on 1 hour's sleep.
Woo!
You absolute champ.
Thank you.
Nida Manzoor, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for coming out. Thank you.